The African continent and African ancient civilizations of Egypt is the greatest ever in history. Where is it today? Follow us here on Hamiti Hebrew Ethics Production as we deal with this civilization. If you are passionate about your original African identity, reactivating ancient African ancestral solutions to modern problems, igniting that feared giant lulled to sleep by other religions and spiritualities, walk with the creator of your and our ancestors, hit the subscribe button, visit our website, Our Life Spirit of Amenhem, comment and share. This is our time. Hamiti Hebrew Ethics, Priest Teacher Rabbi Edem Ademuzulu. How did the greatest civilization of Black Egypt fall? What really happened? Egypt's real name, there is no doubt that of the 6 ancient African earth-changing civilizations which fertilized the earth, the 7th, that of ancient Egypt, among many others, is the greatest and is luminary today. The name Egypt is a Greek derivation of Aegyptos. The Egyptian proper name is Hwata-Ka-Ptah, which means mention of the spirit of Ptah. And Ptah is an architect or craftsman or creator or the netter for being creative. This is the original name of the first ancient Egyptian capital, Memphis, called Mamfa or Mamofa, which is how Africans would pronounce it. This part of Africa also was known as Hemet, from where we derive Hamiti, meaning a black land or the land of black people. Other Africans call their homeland or this homeland Misraim, which simply means Muziraumwe, or one way or one route, referring to the direction or unique direction of the flow of the river Hapki, so-called Nile. These are the ancient Egyptians. They don't look like any other race. They are Africans, and these are their achievements. How did Africans achieve such a high civilization? Humanity's only divine covenant is known as Mahati, which is shown here, or the divine laws of harmony. And this is the Egyptian for Mahati. This is A, and this is T, and this is the lady representing the rule of Mahati. Mahati was a divine gift. Our ancestors conceived the philosophy of knowledge using ancestral spirituality based on Mahati or the laws of Mahati. The great ancestors became receptors of messages from the netters, which are the divine forces or the divine powers. Our ancestors of the African Nile Valley never thought that there was a separation between man and the universe, or the subjective realm of the unseen and the objective manifestation or realm of the netters or ancestors. Though they called them dead, they knew that the dead are living. Everything comes from the unseen to the seen via our creative power, hence the call of Ptah, the mansion of Ptah, or the temple of the divine, or the temple of God, which is this physical body, this Africoid, Negroid, black body. And after that it returns from the seen to the unseen. So Mahati plus many other laws were the source of harmony that created such powerful civilization. So we start with the pre-dynastic and early dynastic period, 5,500 years before Common Era. We are told by scientists and other thinkers today that there is a Paleolithic age, which is the period in human prehistory, distinguished by the original development of stone tools that covers over 95% of human technological prehistory. It extends from the earliest known use of stone tools from as far back as 3.3 million years ago. That's when we could trace our ancestors. Now, the pre-dynastic African prehistory of Egypt spans the period from earliest human settlement as they moved up from the down from south right up to the north or along the Nile. The beginning of the early dynastic period around 4100 before Common Era, starting with the pharaoh Naremera, so-called Nama for some Egyptologists, or Horeha, so-called Menes by others. The pre-dynastic era is traditionally equivalent to the final part of the Neolithic period, beginning in 6,000 years before Common Era. So we know our connection. This is the universal connection with the stars. This is how we connect with the stars of the pharaohs, through the pharaohs. That's why we had pharaonic power. Some notable achievements of ancient Africa. Africa's first. This is unique. Was found in Tutankhamun's burial chambers. You can see that this type of art is unique and beyond mere human. It's divine. See hieroglyphics there. You see the stone. This is it. Ladies and gentlemen, find something better than this from ancient times, then we can start to talk. Africans first. We invented writing, literature, art, architecture, religion, science. These have compelled the people of the world to raise their eyebrows. We also went further. Before that, we had religion and spirituality, which were introduced by ancient Africans. We believed in paradise or Nikadzimu. It has many names, at times called the field of reeds or heaven, in which you would spend your eternity, or the afterlife. After judgment, of course, as you will account for your life on earth according to the laws of Mahati, that is how you are going to be judged. That's the teaching. That's us who discovered all the resurrection, all the stories about Jesus, all the stories in the Quran. Every religion that you can think of with a book or with a belief originated from Africa. The only way to get to paradise is to live an abiding life and to follow the will of the ancestors, the will of the gods, and to live in the land that is most suitable for you to lead such a life. More first, the rights of all. In ancient Egypt, from ancient times, women had same rights as men, but there was a clear distinction of roles. Who plays what role? There were no issues of human rights because everyone had rights, as shown here. We also invented paper and pen, paper from papyrus, and pen and ink, and mathematics and geometry. The ancient Africans exhibited their talent in the field of mathematics and geometry. Hence, the fantastic buildings all over the earth, the pyramid, the sphinx, the structures that we have already shown, came from our ancestors. And this is part of the Rhind papyrus, the mathematics. You can see all trigonometry, all geometry, all angles, even higher maths. It was all produced by ancient Egyptians around 1650 before Common Era, over 4,500 years ago. Also, Africa's past is glorious. All modern achievements we have today are indirectly indebted to black people. More firsts, historiography, where people recorded wars, agriculture and irrigation, navigation, trade and commerce, craftsmanship, systems of administration, political administration, medical science, imutepo, philosophy, postal services, the calendar. You can see this is the key found in Dendera in Africa, the only and first calendar. Don't think about Sumeria and all that. So since we were so powerful, what happened really? What can you and me learn and do today? How then did all this collapse? That's a cardinal question. Let's answer this question using one principle. So-called ancient Egyptian mysteries was in reality an African spirituality. Our super civilization always generated two powerful effects. One, it compelled foreigners or barbarians to raise their eyebrows in envy, jealous, and desire. It is still happening today by all who are still occupying our lands, saying that they are the creators of that, yet the images and the statues there tell a different story. Number two, it created complacence and overconfidence within us. Mahati is the holy divine African concept as a personification of truth, justice, social order, and harmony. If maintained, always it breeds political success and natural fertility. This is dependent on the state or political structure or political strength, on Pharaoh and his permanent communication with the divine world, and all the leaders as they communicate with the divine world. You see, here is achievement. Now we come to the problem where the biggest issue can be answered. This is Pharaoh Wahibire. His other name was Apries. He's also called Hophra in Jeremiah 44:30. He is one of those who employed Greeks and other European mercenaries. And here again is one of the culprits of our demise. Pharaoh Amasis. More enemies within. So with the Persians on the corner, Pharaoh Amos or Amasis decided to strengthen his country against an inevitable invasion. He invited more Greeks to trade and settle in Egypt. And this was in violation of the laws of ancient ancestors. They came and settled here at Naucratis. This is the answer to the question. So Pharaoh Amasis was a full Hellen. What is a full Hellen? A full Hellen is a person who loves Greek culture. He granted privileges to certain Greeks, in particular to those Greeks who came to live in Egypt. He gave the city of Naucratis to dwell in. Now listen to this one. To those of them not wishing to settle in Egypt, what did he do? He gave places for them to set up altars and sanctuaries for their gods. According to this, Amasis resettled the Greeks and Carian mercenaries from Stratopeba in Memphis, a holy city where these people in ancient times would be caught and burned on the fire. As his personal bodyguards, you can read Herodotus, he writes that. At the same time, this king is said to have donated Naucratis to the Greek colonists, a settlement. Pharaoh Amasis gave the Greeks control of the port city of Naucratis on the canopic branch of the Nile. He is the top sellout Pharaoh. This is the answer to why our civilization collapsed, because of Pharaoh Amasis of ancient Egypt, our own ruler, our own African brother. So here they are now. You see, they are starting to sacrifice now. They now started, this is where they started to love the cat, which they didn't love. Our power is now oozing out from ancient Egypt into Cyprus, into Asia Minor, into Europe, via Crete. And Plutarch, 45 CE to 120 CE, had this to write about this. Plutarch likewise traces all Pythagorean symbols back to ancient Egyptian origin. And with Diodorus, he repeats that all the Greek sages, Solon, Thales, Leucocus, Pythagoras, Eudoxus, had visited Egypt and had been in contact with the priests. So this is clear that barbarians came in and they started to flourish. Amasis could be the only pharaoh who was a cynic. Amasis was a Phil Hellene, as we have already indicated. He made more expensive donation to the principal shrines of Greece, in particular that of Apollo at Delphi. He settled Greeks and Anatolians in Egypt against an ancestral law that prohibited that. In considerable numbers they came, and Amasis was no longer dependent on recruiting mercenaries. He had them there, but in order for him to maintain status and to maintain that flow, he had to continuously donate to the temples. The Greeks returned the compliment by showing an increasing fascination with all things Egyptian, and both Solon, the poet, and many others have said it. Pharaoh Amasis was an agnostic. He never followed Mahat. Ancient Africans in ancient Egypt had a law restricting immigration of Greeks, and they were punished for infringing this by capital punishment and sacrificing and burning them. As the reign of Amasis came to an end, the Persians, who were knocking at the door through Cambyses, invaded Egypt, and the whole continent was thrown open to pagans. Amasis died 526 before Common Era. When the Persian king Cambyses conquered Egypt, it ended this Saite dynasty and opened all of us to the rule of the foreigner. Here is Cambyses. He entered the palace of Amasis and gave orders to look for the body of Amasis, which had been embalmed. Cambyses says it subjected to every indignity, such as lashing with whips and the plucking of its hairs, until the executioners were weary. At last, as the corpse had been embalmed and would not fall to pieces under the blows, Cambyses ordered it to be burned. This marks the end of the black native rule and ownership of Egypt. Africans who no longer have any one of them who rule from that country even up to today. This is a general timeline a sad scenario. The answer to why our greatness collapsed is because of the two factors, the foreigner and our own leadership. Before Common Era 670, Pharaoh Psammetichus initiated the study of Greek and employed Greek mercenaries against the Assyrians, set up a camp that stayed in the western delta and allowed the militias to start settling in Nocrotes. 570 before Common Era, under Pharaoh Amos II Amasis, the Greeks were allowed to travel beyond the desert, western desert in the delta. Nocratis became an exclusive Greek trading center, complete with Greek temples. He cultivated close relations with Greek states to help him against the impending Persian onslaught. Instead of looking to Africa, instead of looking to his divine power, Egypt, 525, etc., became a center for Persia and the start of more pronounced Greek immigration into Egypt. 332, Egypt was invaded and plundered by the Macedonians. 305, Egypt ruled by Greek Ptolemaic so-called pharaohs. The death of Queen Cleopatra, the last Greek ruler of Egypt. And then came the Romans, and after the Romans, the white Arabs. It was prophesied to happen. A time will come when it will seem that in vain the Africans in Egypt or elsewhere have honored their gods with pious mind and with Asudia service. All their holy worship will fail infectiously, will be deprived of its fruits. The gods living the earth will go back to heaven. They will abandon Africa. This land, once the home of sacred liturgies, will be widowed of its gods and no longer profit from their presence. Strangers will fill this country, and not only will they no longer be care for religious observances, but a yet more painful thing, it will be laid down under so-called laws, under pain of punishment, that all must abstain from acts of piety or cult towards the gods. Then this very holy land, home of sanctuaries and temples, will be all covered with tombs and the dead. O Egypt, O Egypt, O Egypt, of your cows only fables will remain, and later your children will no longer believe in them. Nothing will be left but words carved in stone to tell of your pious exploits. This is a prophecy that has been fulfilled, that is being fulfilled. In the period between Alexander and Caesar, the Africans still mummified their dead, but they painted the coffins in Greek style rather than Egyptian. So we see how we bury our dead today. We pluck in a cross. We put in Islamic writing. We do Buddhism. This is exactly what has caused our demise. The influx of Christianity, Judaism and Islam paid the end of our powerful practice of spiritual science magic. Our religion has tiny remnants today in primitive village life in sub-Saharan Africa. It is weak and almost on its last flickers. Conclusion. Are you a Christian, a Hebrew Israelite, a black Jew, a Buddhist? Maybe you are a black Muslim following the nation of Islam or Shia or Sunni. You believe perhaps in the Bible or the Quran, but you are black. If yes, don't ask how Africa has collapsed and remains on the ground, trodden by all and sundry. It is our collective action. Our politicians continue in the ways of Wahibire and Amasis. Yet in all the ruckus, you have a duty to rescue your soul. It is an exciting and highly deadly operation. Yes, it can be done. It is an undisclosed way, a powerful secret indeed. If you know this, this is your time. Get in touch. Siyabonga, Tatenda, thank you. Priest Teacher Rabbi LM Dumusulu, Hamiti Hebrew Ethics, Umoya, Mngeya is Spirit. Comment and share and subscribe to Hamiti Hebrew Ethics